Hello, hello. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another Learn Together, this time to talk about the SQL database in Fabric. I'm so excited to be here today, joined by my good friend
Hello.
Sean. Sean, how you doing?
Are we having technical issues?
Nice. You
Javier!
good? Hey, hey, nice to see you. How are you?
Well, I think we're having technical issues already. Oh,
Good,
I
good,
can't hear
good.
Javier.
I can hear you, Sean. Yeah, Sean, I
Okay,
can
maybe
hear
it's
you
just
with.
me. I don't know.
Yeah,
Javier, I'll let you take it away though,
I can.
if you want to start.
All right, very good. So let me know when you hear me, and we move on. Well, as I was saying, super happy to be here today with Sean. We're gonna be talking about SQL databases in Fabric, like we did before on the previous Learn Together series for Fabric. Right, this time we will talk about SQL database in Fabric. It's quite an interesting thing. By the way, I mean, this was just announced not so long ago, I would say days ago, during the last Ignite 2024 in Chicago, right? And basically opened new opportunities to learn about SQL databases in Fabric, right? So the idea today is just focus in the basis, right? In the getting to know. We will see some excitement with the demos, and then we will go through a series of events, right? As usual, for this Learn Together initiative, we would like to make it live as we are right now and as interactive as possible. So if you are connected to the YouTube channel, please say hi, ask questions, always respectfully, and well, let's have fun and learn at the same time, right? As I was saying before, this is a series of six episodes, right? Today we are kicking it off for the getting to know SQL databases in Fabric, and the upcoming days we have few more episodes in where the idea is with other colleagues we will see uh, as much as possible all these new capabilities, right? But let's start with it. Before getting to the topic, just a new announcement. There's going to be the second Fabric conference in Las Vegas from March 31st to April 2nd, 2025. So definitely go there, register. This is nice. This is good. It's a lot of learning, not only about SQL databases in Fabric, but about the whole Fabric ecosystem, right? Definitely, there is a discount code there, so feel free to go to the registration page, check the discount code, and definitely take advantage of this. This is super nice. I didn't have the chance to be the last time. I'm really looking forward to be this time to keep learning about Microsoft Fabric. All right. So why we use SQL database in Microsoft Fabric? But first of all, let's do a quick recap of what Microsoft Fabric is. It was announced a year ago during Ignite 2023, right, as a general available. And, in this Ignite this year, SQL database in Microsoft Fabric was announced as a public preview, right? This is something important to mention. It's not general available yet, but is getting deployed in all the Azure, in all the regions, right? So we can all start playing around and getting to know with SQL database in Fabric, right? As you know already, Microsoft Fabric was intended to be the analytical platform that is a SaaS, software as a service environment, right? Which give us everything that we need out of the box without having to install any virtual machine, any software, anything at all, right? And we have it as an analytical process, right? We ingest data from multiple data sources with storage, we process, and then we present it with Power BI. This was great, right? This is still great, but now Microsoft is adding to the solution the possibility to have a relational database. And for that, they are adding SQL database, which is something that, is coming from Azure SQL. We have all the knowledge about SQL Server, right? So if you were using SQL Server over the years and you are a developer and you would like to have your database, your application integrated into the Fabric ecosystem, right? Definitely, here is the way to go. So let's try to discover it, right? So let's gonna go with an introduction with some numbers to try to get to the message that we would like to deliver today. It's predicted, right, by several sources that there's going to be around 1 billion new application in the next 5 years, right? And 87% of the leaderships, right, believe that AI will have a key objective is going to be key within the development of those applications, right? So pretty big number, right? So Microsoft SQL Server, as we said, now part of the Fabric ecosystem as well. We know SQL Server. I've been using SQL Server for over 30 years from, now the Azure SQL umbrella, where we have the SQL Server product. By the way, recently announced the upcoming version, which is SQL Server 2025, right? It was announced a few days ago also. So we have SQL Server, right, as a product. We have Azure SQL machines running the same SQL Server product that we've been using for years. But at the same time, in Azure, we have Azure SQL Database, right, and Azure SQL Managed Instance, right? The message is from the ground up to the cloud, and now also in Fabric, right? In Fabric, we have this capability of synchronizing with the Lakehouse, right? So we can build these applications that will rely on our relational engine, right? And at the same time, have this information, this data available in the Lakehouse to be used and synchronized in real time with Fabric, so we can use it for any analytical application that we may have, right? So this is the stack of Microsoft Fabric, right? Sean, I see you're back.
I am back. I'm so sorry. I had to spot it, right? Technology for the win.
Technology, right?
Yep.
So this is why we are in. Good. You want to, at least say hi and start with your presentation, and then we move on together.
Sure. Real quick, my name's John Morehouse, principal consultant with Denny Cherry Associates. I'm happy to be here, especially with my good friend Javier, to talk about SQL in Fabric. I'll let you go back.
Good, excellent. Thank you, Sean. It's great to have you back. So together we will try to deliver this message today. So Microsoft Fabric, right? In where there are multiple approaches, as I briefly mentioned before, we have the possibility to ingest data using Data Factory, using data flows as well, right? At the same time, we have the analytical engine coming from Synapse, in where we have data warehousing and Lakehouse. We also have one of the best solution that I've seen in the last several years, which is Power BI within Fabric, And besides real intelligence to handle a stream of data, we also have databases now. So for us, for the ones that are coming from the SQL background, definitely is something great. We also have Copilot, right? So Copilot in Fabric, which will help us to uh, interact with our data and get the proper insight from the data, not only, just definitely will help us to when we need to code. For example, if we need to write a notebook, if we need to write DAX code or Transact SQL, or in Power BI, right, in where we can, use Copilot to write a report, but at the same time, we can also get this insight from the data just interacting with natural language. So definitely, this is what Microsoft Fabric is nowadays. And of course, using OneLake, which is this layer of storage, right, in where all the Fabric components rely to storage and share data between them. I always like to make this comparison with OneLake within Fabric, with OneDrive within Microsoft 365, Microsoft Office, right? It's this common layer of storage in where we, save our documents, our documentation, and we share it with that. So OneLake is this for Fabric solution. And now again, with databases. And finally, we have Microsoft Pureview, which is what is helping us to do the data governance of the whole solution, right? So definitely, Fabric is getting more mature and adding new components to the ecosystem, right? So we've been using SQL databases since a while, right? So, but in this case, we will have the possibility of building AI applications in a more efficient and faster way, right? On a SaaS environment, right? On a SaaS, software as a service database, which is what does it mean, right? We don't need to have a bare metal server, a virtual machine, a laptop, whatever you name it, and install software, any piece of software. We have everything available within the software as a service solution, right? So the idea is to be more, to be faster, yeah, more accurate, and have more confidence on completing all these tasks, right? So let's start from the beginning. The idea of Azure, of SQL databases within Fabric is to make it extremely simple, right? For the ones that have been using Fabric for a while, we know that creating any kind of artifact within Fabric is super easy. You just go click new and you create a new workspace. Then you easily create a data warehouse and lakehouse. So everything that is coming next, including databases, right, is following that criteria, right? So it's simple, super easy to do the provisioning, right? So with 2 clicks, right? We can also have AI assistant with Copilot. And as I briefly mentioned before, we have everything that we need in terms of T-SQL development, right? All the knowledge that we have from the store procedure, functions, views, table, indexes, you name it, is integrated within SQL Fabric, SQL databases in Fabric. And we have the editor to work with it from the user interface. Mm-hmm. One of the key things of SQL Fabric databases, SQL databases in Fabric, I still take me some time to get used to the name, is SQL databases in Fabric, is the online replication to OneLake, right? There are other components for do this near real-time replication from other engines that we will mention in a bit, right? But if you create a SQL database in Fabric, right, immediately it will replicate to OneLake, and with that, right, it will be integrated with all the other data-related components. As I said, OneLake will contain data warehouse, lakehouse, and now the database. Sean.
That's on by default, right?
Absolutely,
Yep.
absolutely. Yep. It's part of the, I would say, the DNA of Fabric and all the component, right? So every time you create and you store data, right? Relational, not relational, right? Like files or like JSON or Parquet file or even CSV file is going to be in OneLake. And now when you have your SQL database in Fabric, you will create a table, right, with the editor or with the T-SQL statement that we've been using for years. Sean, create table, right? We will have the columns, the data types, then we will start inserting data, and that data, besides being stored in the tables, right, will be automatically replicated to OneLake. Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a really cool feature, especially from a operational DBA. We get your operational data to analytics very, very quickly, significantly much faster. And that's always been a long conversation we've had for many, many years of how we get operational data to the analytical side. So I think it's a really cool feature that Microsoft has implemented, is this database mirroring into Fabric.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've been waiting this for a while, right? And now we have it in front of us.
Yep, I think that's really, really cool.
And the what I like of having the replication directly to OneLake in near real time, right, is that we will be able, as we've been before with Lakehouse or data warehouse, to have our application writing new data, inserting data or updating or even deleting data into a relational table, and right away we can have, for example, a Power BI report reading directly from OneLake, so we can have real-time reports, right? We don't have to wait for the ETLs, right, or the ELTs that we've been using for years, of course, right? In where, once an hour, once every 6 hours, once a day, or depending on our logic, right? We were just extracting from the relational database and moving the data into the analytical solution. Now it's fully integrated, and that is great.
That's very cool.
Mm-hmm. So we will notice that after we create the database, we will have two artifacts, right? I mean, we're going to have the database with the name that we will choose, right? But then we'll have the semantic model, right, which will be the one that most of the time we can connect with Power BI. But we also have the SQL analytical endpoint, right? So definitely, besides having the SQL editor, we have the semantic model created by default. If I remember correctly, this is exactly the same that when you create a lakehouse or a data warehouse. All right, so here's the fun, right? This is after a while that people were requesting this, Microsoft delivered with a great solution. It's fully integrated into an application lifecycle management, right? So you can integrate your source code with GitHub or Azure DevOps, right? So you can have your application fully deployed and maintained with lifecycle management, right? There's gonna be one dedicated session for application lifecycle management, right? That they will go deeper into this topic, but definitely is for us database administrator, now also handling Fabric, being able to have this tight integration with the source code control is great. Mhm.
Highly agree.
Mhm. All right, so same as the existing Microsoft Fabric capacity model, we have multiple ways to get into Fabric, right? And there are two components, right? Compute, which is serverless, right? And the storage, right? So both of them will both compute and storage is what we get when we deploy a Fabric capacity, right? And these are the two variables we have. Eventually, we can even stop the compute, but we always have the storage in where all our data reside, and now the databases as well, right? So, according to several big customers, right, that they've been getting into the very early stages of SQL databases in Fabric, right? They've been using it and they love it, right? By the way, I've been using it also in pre-releases, and this is something that I definitely love, and I see it seriously as a game changer, right? So I believe that finally Microsoft removed the analytical word within the Microsoft Fabric. So now it's a data platform as a whole, right? And these customers are definitely supporting this with their early testing, their feedback, and with this quote, right? Uh, what is super important as well is that it's autonomous and secure, right? So definitely, when we build a database, right, an application that will rely on a database, we would definitely look for these things. Secure, right? We definitely need our application to be fully secure, right? It has to be available all time, right? If this is a mission critical application, doesn't matter where it is, right? It has to be available 24/7, right? And it also must have a serious level of performance, right? And we will see how SQL database in Fabric address all these 3 points, right? Definitely, the solution provides security by default, is fully integrated with the Microsoft security stack, right? It's also provide by default and manage it automatically, high availability and disaster recovery, so you don't need to worry about any failover or anything like that, right? Microsoft guarantee that is auto-managed, so you don't have to worry for that, right? And the performance part, as we said, super important, right? If the application notes, right, underneath that it's required more processing power, let's say, it will automatically scale, right, without any user intervention, right? And then there are, in terms of performance, also there are other capabilities. For example, all the capabilities of query store in SQL Server and Azure SQL, right? Automatic query tuning, right? Automatic index tuning, right? Also here. So in terms of optimization to achieve a great level of performance, right? As well as processing power, SQL databases in Fabric is definitely everything built in. Mhm. So here is a little bit of comparison of an Azure SQL database, right? The one that we've been using now for a while, how they achieve high availability and disaster recovery, right? And how it's been achieved within Fabric, right? For example, in Azure SQL Database, there are multiple replicas behind the thing that are automatically synchronized between different zones and region in Azure, right? This is not an automatic process. It's not too complex, right? There are just a few clicks to enable, right? But definitely the capability of high availability and disaster recovery are coming from Azure SQL Database, but in Microsoft Fabric now is built in by default because it's rely on the same architecture, right, with the addition of the mirroring, right, in near real time, which, by the way, mirroring is also available in Azure SQL Database. Is something that you have to configure, right? Mirroring is this capability to synchronize your existing Azure SQL databases into Fabric, into OneLake, right, with this capability. But if you create your database within Fabric, you don't need to do absolutely anything because it's synchronizing by default, right?
That's one of the most beautiful things I think about this product coming to fruition is that you get all the benefits of SQL database, but they've simplified the management of it. It's a service, software as a service. You just go create a database in Fabric and you get all the wonderful components that come along with it. I think that's fantastic.
And something that is not minor, Sean, is that you have this capability without compromising your operational database, right? Which is most of the time a big problem, right? So
well, I think a big component is it's still SQL underneath the hood. I mean, they've made some modifications and whatnot, but it's still SQL. Your database is still a SQL database, so it still functions like a SQL database, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. So these are some of the capabilities of Fabric database, SQL database in Fabric, right? Authentication, right? Just to consider, and this is super important, it support Microsoft Entra authentication only, right? So you cannot use your Active Directory or your SQL authentication. Data encryption by default, all data encrypted as rest, and it's also support the possibility of bring your own key support, right? So the authorization part is embedded into what Fabric is, right? So you create your workspace, you create your database within, right? So all the security also now goes to the database as well, right? Auditing, right, is coming soon, right? So you will be able to have auditing by default and with some customization as well. The whole network security, super important. It's private link ready. So if your enterprise, if your environment require the use of private link, right, you can use it same as a Fabric as a whole, and also all the data encrypted in transit with the TLS 1.2, right? And the governance is centrally with Microsoft Purview, as we mentioned before, right? So secure and governed by default. That is really great. Some of those things available right now, and some others coming in few weeks.
The first half of 2025.
Yeah. So we're definitely looking forward.
We're getting closer.
Autonomous. Yeah, almost there, or in a blink of an eye. So some of this topic we were mentioned then just before, right? Auto scaling in terms of compute and storage, auto high availability and some redundancy to achieve HADR, right? Secure and governed by default, auto replication with OneLake, auto indexing, right? all the latest improvement in query processing, right? Auto backup, something that we haven't mentioned. So Fabric, as a SaaS solution, is taking care of the backups, so we don't have to worry about doing the backups ourselves, and also the auto patching, right? Meaning that we don't need to schedule to apply a cumulative update or something like that. The engine is always up to date because it's auto patch.
Easy.
So Aeon definitely using SQL databases in Fabric since a while, highlight the simplification, minimizing the data duplication, which is a big benefit within Fabric as a whole, and improvement in the performance. So another super important topic is fully optimized for AI, right? So as we mentioned at the beginning, AI, well, is now everywhere. It's not the future, it's the present, and it's embedded everywhere. And with the SQL databases in Fabric is not the exception, right? Most of the features available in Azure SQL are also available here, like, for example, vector and RAG support. We can also call external model using REST APIs, right? So we can integrate with Azure AI services. That means that you won't store the LLM model within Fabric or within the database. You will be able to call to using OpenAI, right, or Azure AI services to any of these external models, the one you choose, right, and then integrate it within the database and your application, right? Definitely a super cool feature. What do you think, Sean?
I think that's one of my favorite features. I think I'm really interested in how AI has come to the SQL world, and now it's being embedded with the vector and RAG support that we can call those open AI services, or any AI services, really, wherever your model lives. I think that's a really smart tactical decision by Microsoft to bring that to the database so that we can do those searches against those vectors.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy that it's actually now in the database for SQL database.
Yeah. You just mentioned there is native support for vector data type, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
Definitely this is super important.
Yep.
So this will help us to build new kind of application, more scalable AI applications that will help us to do semantic search. So we will be able to combine the power of Azure OpenAI with our own data, right? So we can also write our SQL, right, to interact with OpenAI, right, and definitely build richer applications based on this.
Yep.
Well, as we mentioned before, fully replicated to one lake, right, which will give us the possibility to use Power BI in direct lake mode, cross-database querying, right, and multi-cloud shortcut. This is super important because you will be able to run T-SQL queries with the data that you have within your SQL database in Fabric, but also doing a join, for example, with your data warehouse or your lakehouse, right? And even if you have shortcut with data that is living on a different cloud provider, you can also bring it into the picture as well. Benefits in terms of notebook, right? For data science, we can also use Spark, Python within the databases, same as we've been doing for data warehouse, right? integration with AI skill, something that is coming really soon, right? And other component of the Fabric ecosystem, data activator and real-time intelligence, again, can take advantage of the relational database engine, right, to build more richer application, right? Here are some of the customers that, sorry, there are some customers here, right? We see MSC, the one I work for. So we've been part of the early testing. So as I mentioned, we love this. We've been using it since a while, but there are others big customers as well, right? So some of the prerequisites, right? This is important for you if you would like to start getting involved with that, right? You have to have your Power BI account, right, to sign in into an existing Fabric capacity, right? You have to go to your tenant administration and tell them to enable this capability within Fabric. Remember, this is a preview release, right? So if you want to take advantage, if you want to use it, it has to be enabled manually, right? It's also interesting if you have a Microsoft Azure account, right? Because it will help you to do some of the workshops available, especially in the AI model area. Visual Studio Code, .NET 8, Node.js, right? And your source control repository, either Git or Azure DevOps. Mhm. So we will go to some of the demos here, right? Basically, in this demo, we're showing how to create a workspace, right? This is not unique for SQL database. This is for all the Fabric capabilities, right? If you create a layout, a warehouse, and now a database, you need to create your workspace to organize your workflow, right? Assign a Fabric capability, right? Remember, still available the 16 days trial, and super easily we have the workspace created. And now we are ready to start creating our database, right? So once we have the workspace created, right, what we need to do is, again, go to new, right? And now we will see that there is a new artifact available, which is SQL databases, right? So within the demo, we scroll down and we see that now we have SQL database, as I mentioned, as preview. We just need to specify a name for our database, hit create, and voila, it's ready, right? So we don't need to choose the, if it is business critical, if it is general purpose, if it is serverless, if it is the amount of cores, the storage, the IOPS, anything. We have that powerful within Azure SQL database, right? But as we said at the beginning, right, SQL databases in Fabric is simple. So we just create the workspace, we create the database, and boom, it's ready. And we have our environment to start playing around. Mhm. So let's
That was pretty
move
simple.
on to the next demo. Super simple, right? We haven't seen anything that simple. Just create the database, choose your name, which I believe is the hardest part,
Yeah.
and then you are ready.
Hardest thing,
right?
picking how to name it.
Yeah. So once you create your database, right, you have your editor, you live within the editor, and then you can start creating objects, right? For example, tables, views, etc. In this case, in the demo, we're creating a sequence, right? And then we will see that based on that, we will have tables and objects. And if we go to the Explorer side at the left side of the screen, right, we have all the components: table, view, store, procedure, function, right? Have you seen that before, Sean?
Yep. Yep. So remember that
It's
we're building a database so that as we go through the sessions, we have an end application at the end that's doing vector searches and stuff.
which is super interesting. Something that I love is we don't have to get out of the Fabric portal, right? Eventually, if we want, we can even use Management Studio, right? This is something that we've been using for a while. But you have the SQL editor within the environment. So if you need to use your existing T-SQL skill to create objects, you can do it, right? In this case, it's creating several tables, right? And with indexes, of course, everything that we know from SQL, that then we will use these tables and this object for the upcoming sessions to build a brand new application. So we create the ID, we create the tables with the constraint and the indexes, and now we are just doing we just inserting data into those tables that we create. This is part of the demo. As you can see, is something that we have seen in SQL for years, right? But now in SQL databases in Fabric.
And this is all native T-SQL that we all know and love, right? So simple.
And definitely, of course, as you said, this is the standard SQL that we've been using since a while. But to get the insight of the new data type for vectors, to do the REST API call to OpenAI, well, there's new things that we need to learn. But as you can see, you have the editor, you can preview your data, right? So you have all you need available in here.
That's really awesome.
All right. So, Sean, what do you think? I believe we cover the simplicity, all the benefits, right? High availability, disaster recovery, performance, security, everything just to do and kick off of this Learn Together series, right? So, well, I definitely encourage you to follow with the series, with the other episodes. Again, we will go through more in-depth topic as we did in previous series, right? But now we are open for questions. I don't know if we have some questions in the chat.
We do. So the first question is, can we use one sequence in multiple tables? If so, will its sequence be maintained? And I think that's referring to the creation of the sequence that was demoed earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And
if I remember correctly, is the same that in SQL Server, right?
Right, and I don't remember what that answer is. I would have to look that.
If I remember correctly, you cannot reuse the identity into multiple objects, right? Otherwise, it's gonna break your statement, right? But it's the same as in SQL Server for the same code. Mm-hmm. Any other question we have, Sean?
Yep. They're starting to roll in. On which machine do we install the prereqs? If we go back to that slide, I can look it up.
Yeah, I believe those prereqs that we mentioned in the slide are in order to move on with the whole series, right? Because, in the series, we will go through building a full AI-ready application using the database in Fabric, right? So if you have your own machine, you can install those prerequisites, right? But again, you must have your account, you must have your Fabric capacity, and be able to create the database so you can connect to Git and to Visual Studio Code and .NET 8 your own application, right? So
Right.
this is to build your application, not for the database itself.
Right. For just the database, you need Power BI, Azure Tenant, and then the ability to do that. You don't need the machine level things necessarily to create the database in Fabric.
That's correct. That's correct.
Let's see. Do we have any more questions? Hang on. We do. In that case, why do we need sequence when we have identity? What's the extra benefit that we get with it? That's a great question.
Yeah. It's the same as in Azure SQL database, right? It's not fully supported. And again, this is an example, right? So you can choose whatever you need for your own application, right? So as you saw, the identity column is available, but we have sequence as part of the demo as well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think aren't sequences more like application controlled? I think the application has
not identities,
right identities. You wouldn't, because that's solely controlled by SQL. We have another question. Can we use Azure DevOps pipelines to deploy schema changes across environments? And can we use DACPack deployments, or is it easier to use the Fabric deployment pipelines? I don't know that answer.
Stay tuned, I would say. It's not available yet, but definitely is coming. So an additional flavor, so you can use all these great tools.
Yep. Another question: can I achieve this with the free trial of Fabric? And I think that answer is yes.
Yes, if still Microsoft is deploying the database component through the regions. So even if you go through, you may not be seeing it, but as we speak, they are achieving the deployment in other areas, in other regions, right? So if it is not today, try next week, because for sure you will see it.
All right. Well, I think that's all the questions we have. Our next thing, we should have a schedule slide. It's coming up right here.
Yeah. Here it is. Tomorrow, integration, the integration part. So we're gonna present data flow, notebooks, and report, right? So we will see how to use it with Fabric as a whole, but also with SQL databases in Fabric. So tomorrow at the same time. So please join us to this module, as well as the one coming after. Right, it's super great to have this opportunity to learn together. Right. Finally, again, Vegas. Right. So the first FabCon this year, 2024, first in Vegas and then in Europe, were great, sold out, a lot of knowledge, a lot of networking, new things, etc. So the second edition in Vegas, again, definitely will wait you there. Right. And with that, I believe we complete the first episode. So Sean, was super great to share the stage with you. Thank you, and thank you to the audience to be with us today. And well, we looking forward to see you in the next episode.
See ya.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Javier. Good seeing you. Sorry for the technical issues.